Okay, so how many of you have to wake up in the morning and have your cup of coffee? Good, so many people. And how many of you feel like you just need it to get through the day, to push through? Alright, well, I'm one of those people who I need my coffee when I wake up in the morning, or my day is just not going to be complete, it's not going to be right. So, Starbucks is also a huge name that you hear when you all think of coffee. When you think of coffee, you think of Starbucks. You think of that little, I don't even know what she is, if she's Medusa or whatever that green logo is that they always use. You always think of her. And Starbucks is a really pivotal company in the coffee industry and coffee houses because they do keep that environment of the small kind coffee house, and it's more personable and it's a lot easier to relate to someone and a product that's easily accessible. The problem is that if you're not one of those people who drinks coffee all the time, which in the case of about 50%, according to Life Science, of people do not even drink coffee, which makes the coffee market, especially in this economy, something that's not very accessible and readily available to the public. So what coffee houses around the country, and I'm sure around the world, are trying to do is expand their market by making the product a little bit more accessible. You've probably been to coffee houses where you see smoothies and bagels and pastries and other drinks that you can purchase alongside the regular coffee products, and that's because they're not making as much money as they'd like to and not targeting an entire audience like they'd like to with just their coffee. And I'm going to show you a clip from a Starbucks commercial that was actually recently started being aired. It always was just on their Starbucks YouTube channel. So we'll look at that, and it's about how they're trying to target their audiences. Come on. Oh no. How do I make the volume work?
Looks like the sound got turned off at some point. Yes. Click again.
My mother was never into our coffee at all. She would only get a splash of coffee in her cup and then fill the rest up with cream. And Mommy, what's going on? What are you doing? So when we did the blonde roast, she finally went from a splash of coffee to only a splash of cream.
Okay, so this commercial shows Ariel, and she's a barista at the Seattle coffee shop, which is the original Starbucks store in Washington. And her mother doesn't like the dark roasts. And if you're not a dark roast person, then you do end up with more cream and more sugar than you actually end up with coffee in your drink. And Live Science did this huge study last year on American coffee drinkers, and they had a huge panel, and they took lots of samples. And one thing that they found is that 54% of people don't like to drink their coffee black. That was a huge thing that they discovered, and it made the blonde roast seem like even more of a good idea for Starbucks. So they made this roast to help people accommodate people so that they feel like they can have the Starbucks experience and the Starbucks coffee without having to go outside of their usual comfort zone and have more cream and less coffee in general. Another great thing about this ad and the way that Starbucks gets a lot of their credibility is by making it sort of like a story. She's really easy to listen to. It's almost like an interview. It doesn't seem so much like you're being targeted. It just seems very informative, and it seems like they're just wanting to tell you about their new roast. But really, it's making you think, I wonder if I would like that. I should probably go try it. And the last little bit of their campaign shows this. I had to cut it out, but it says explicitly that it's the blonde roast, and it says converts wanted. And the great thing about this is that with the blonde roast, you can still have access to the other roasts if you want to try them, but they make it so accessible because it says come in for a taste any morning. It makes it like they don't only serve it on certain days. They serve it every single day, and there's always an opportunity for you to come. It makes it more accessible for those people who don't really like coffee as much. And another great thing about the blonde roast is that it's more of a personable type of coffee, and since Starbucks is all about making their product personable, it's really great for them because it makes them more marketable. And while some people are flocking to Starbucks to try new roasts that they come up with, a lot of people are thinking it's really expensive because we all know that Starbucks is a very expensive franchise. But the thing about Starbucks is they don't want you to come because you're rushing in to get a cup of coffee. The Starbucks experience is just like that. It's the experience. It's coming in, it's sitting down in their